Welcome to the Kentucky Private Applicator Training Certification Program. By completing this training, you will be allowed to buy and apply restricted use and general use pesticides to produce any ag commodity. Applications can be made on the property that you own or lease and/or the land of your employer. However, products containing paraquat and some dicamba products require additional training and certifications. You can apply pesticides to the land of a farmer or neighbor without compensation other than trading personal services. And with this certification, you can annually train workers to satisfy worker protection standards. Your private applicator certification is valid for 3 years and expires on December 31st of the 3rd year. This program can be customized to fit your agricultural operation, including grains, tobacco, pasture, fruits, vegetables, and greenhouses. Certified private pesticide applicators are expected to have practical knowledge of common pests and their damage. They should be able to read and understand the pesticide labeling information, including the common names of pesticides applied, pests to be controlled, timing and methods of applications, safety precautions, and any pre-harvest or re-entry restrictions, and any specific disposal procedures. You should know how to follow label instructions and warnings, to be able to prepare concentrations and calibrate application equipment, to be able to recognize local environmental situations that must be considered during application to avoid contamination, recognize poisoning symptoms and procedures to follow in case of a pesticide accident, know and follow the rules of record keeping for pesticides, understand and comply with the worker protection standards, and finally, store pesticides in accordance with the federal and state laws and regulations. After completing this training, you will be issued a private applicator's card with your certification number. You will need this card to purchase restricted use pesticides. While there is a list of current certified applicators posted online by county in Kentucky, and it indicates when their certification will expire, the Personal Information Security Act does not allow posting of the state-issued identification numbers. You are the only one who can provide this number directly to pesticide dealers, and they are required to have these numbers for their sales records. You must record all pesticide applications of both general and restricted use pesticides within 14 days of the date of application. Kentucky requires that these records be maintained for 3 years. Commercial custom applicators must provide you with a copy of any application they've made within the last 30 days of treatment. In 2017, a pollinator protection plan was developed through the leadership of the Kentucky Department of Agriculture and many other organizations and agencies. The plan includes best management practices for beekeepers, pesticide applicators, and landowners, as well as a communication tool which could be used by applicators to alert nearby beekeepers when an application will be made, as required by certain pesticide labels. The Worker Protection Standard is an EPA-administered regulation to reduce pesticide exposure among agricultural workers and pesticide handlers. Agricultural workers and pesticide handlers must be trained each year before they begin their work, and there is no grace period. There are 3 parts to this: informing workers and handlers about pesticide safety, providing protection from potential exposures to pesticides, and mitigating exposures that do occur. Anyone except for family members employed, including self-employed, for any type of compensation by an agricultural establishment or a commercial pesticide establishment that uses pesticides in the production of plants on a farm, forest, nurseries, or greenhouses is covered by WPS. These rules apply to the owners and employers on these types of agricultural and pesticide handling establishments. WPS requirements must be followed whenever there is an agricultural use requirement box on the label of the pesticide that is being applied. The WPS protections covers 2 types of employees: pesticide handlers and agricultural workers. Pesticide handlers are those who mix, load, or apply agricultural pesticides, handle open pesticide containers, clean or repair pesticide application equipment, enter enclosed treated areas before ventilation requirements have been met, dispose of pesticides or containers, or assist in the application of pesticides. Agricultural workers are those that perform hand labor tasks in pesticide-treated crops or lands. This includes various types of activities, including harvesting, pruning, thinning, and trellising of plants. Here are some things that you can do to comply with the worker protection standards. Ensure that all pesticide handlers and early entry workers are at least 18 years old. Post warning signs for all pesticide applications with a restricted entry interval, or REI, of more than 48 hours. Provide safety data sheets along with pesticide application information at the central display site. And provide emergency eye wash systems at pesticide mixing and loading sites. Provide the new pesticide safety poster at the central display location at decontamination sites. Implement application exclusion zones by keeping workers and other people away from the application equipment and treatment areas during pesticide applications. This is at least 100 feet from ground application equipment. Provide respirator fit testing, training, and medical evaluations that conform with OSHA standards for any handler required by pesticide labeling to wear a respirator. Some pesticides require the use of a respirator, as these pesticides pose an inhalation risk. Most pesticides do not require a respirator. When using those pesticides requiring a respirator, applicators must use the approved respirators to meet the specific requirements listed on the label. There are many different types of respirator requirements which differ based on the types of pesticides and the risks they pose. Before selecting and using a respirator, applicators must be cleared to use a respirator by a doctor, as respirators can make it more difficult to breathe while you are working. A medical clearance is needed every 2 years. Applicators must also be fit tested for the models of respirators they will use. This must be done each year. A poorly fitting respirator does not provide the level of protection needed. Fit testing must meet OSHA 29 CFRR 1910.134 standards. Medical clearance and fit testing records must be kept for 3 years. There's a lot of information to familiarize yourself with. On the UK Pesticide Safety Education Program information page, you can find the Applying Pesticides Correctly core manual, as well as links to training materials in Spanish.